This is the Almost Timely newsletter for the week of October 2nd, 2022. What's on my mind this week? The great content marketing reboot. I was having a chat with a few professional friends recently about our shared experiences at conferences, at the way audiences were reacting to our content as professional speakers. Something really stood out that I thought I'd share and get your take on. See if you're seeing the same thing wherever it is in marketing that you work. The headline feels like marketing as a profession, as an industry, has rebooted. I mentioned this a couple of weeks ago after Content Marketing World, and since then I've caught up with even more friends from events like Inbound, B2B Exchange, and many others, as well as in our free Slack group, Analytics for Marketers. We're all seeing the same thing. The profession of marketing seems to have hit a hard reboot. Press that reboot switch. What does that mean? Well, it means in short that a tremendous amount of institutional knowledge has just vaporized. Right? There's been so much churn, so much turnover these last 2.5 years that the people sitting in the room at these events with us, as we're on stage, it's a completely different crowd, whole new group of folks. Now, part of that is undoubtedly a function of time, right? When you go to the same event year after year, you see some change from year to year, but you see the same people from year to year for the most part. So the change isn't as abrupt, it isn't as dramatic. With some of the current in-person conferences, we haven't gotten together in the same physical space for, in some cases, 3 years now. So of course, there's going to be more dramatic change, more easily seen change, right? Like, whoa, look at all these people. Where'd you all come from? Right? 3 years. But I had a feeling it was bigger than that. Naturally, of course, turned to data to see if we could get a feel for just how much things have changed, and found it in the Job Openings and Labor Turnover Survey, the JOLTS report, which is published by the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics. Now, this data is going to be USA only for obvious reasons, but I suspect it holds true for many places, since we all kind of, experienced the same pandemic together. So let's see what we got. I'll put this up here. Yeah. When you look at 2020 and beyond here for professional services job training, because that's what this is, professional services, the train leaps off the rails, right? We've hired more people in the last 2.5 years than ever before. We've separated more, which is separated as quits plus people being fired, in the last 2.5 years than ever before. But the telling line is that orange line. That's the number of job openings available at the last day of each month. That's how they measure it. Last day of each month, how many openings do you have? You can see there's a very brief red spike there, right? Very brief red spike. That was the big pause in March, April 2020. And that utterly decimated the professional services workforce. And the pace of hiring, which is the green line, has not kept up with the number of openings, right? Even with layoffs and a recession that seems to be looming right now, there's still over 2 million professional services jobs unfilled, and there's a lot of churn. Right? How do we know this? Well, the green line there is hires. The red line is separations. They're marching in lockstep. They're marching together, which means that as fast as we're hiring, people are leaving one way or the other too. The door is revolving. People coming in, people going out. Now, this is all just professional services jobs, all of them, not just marketing, right? Marketing is probably about 10% of that. But it speaks to just how big a dislocation there was in the early months of the pandemic and its impact on marketing, right? Just a huge, hard reboot, which brings me back to the great reboot of marketing. What happens when there's a big jobs dislocation? A bunch of very senior folks punch out, right? They take early retirement if they're offered a good package. And those senior folks carry with them a tremendous amount of institutional knowledge, right? Then the inevitable hiring freezes come so that any attrition you have, people leaving more gradually over time, isn't replaced. companies being companies, when it is replaced, the head count that they tend to hire in tends to be more junior because junior folks cost less, right? By the time a company is ready to start hiring again and turn off the hiring freeze, they've lost the biggest reservoirs of institutional knowledge in their senior folks, right? And they've restaffed with new, fresh people. Now, that's not all bad, right? These new, fresh people bring new perspectives, fresh perspectives, new ideas, to be sure. Hopefully some more diversity too. But they don't have the benefit of that large institutional knowledge reservoir to draw on, which means that marketing in a company that's done this, that's instituted a hiring freeze and had that big dislocation, we're starting over. You hire new content creators and SEO folks, and they got to skill up on your environment. They may have to skill up on the profession itself, especially if they're fresh off the graduation stage. You have to inoculate them with your culture, dust off the knowledge repositories of the people whose positions they filled, hoping against hope that anybody left any kind of documentation behind, which they usually haven't. So you're literally going to reinvent the wheel. You're going to reinvent the wheel. All of this translates into what we're seeing now at conferences and events. We're meeting the new crew. We're meeting the new team at nearly every company. We're meeting folks who are back to square one, back to the basics, back to needing to know how to do something before they can even consider what it is they're doing or why they're doing it. In turn, if we are running marketing, we're restarting. Now, maybe you're lucky. Maybe you're a long timer. Maybe you got some gray hair like I do, and you've been at your company for a while. You can get the new folks up and running pretty quickly, right? But if you're one of the new folks, chances are you're probably experiencing less than optimal conditions for getting up to speed. So here's my unsolicited advice. If you are running marketing, if you're a marketing manager, marketing director, whatever, there's never been a better time to start documenting what you do, why you do it, and how you do it at your company. As you can tell from that chart that we were looking at, the level of instability in the job market isn't going away soon, right? We have millions of unfilled jobs, which creates a lot of churn on its own, as candidates can basically name their price and hop from job to job until they find what they like. And the moment there's a hiring freeze, any company, churn goes up. Why? Because you used to have 5 people in this department, and then one left. You're not going to be hired, so now 4 people have to do 5 people's work. And somebody gets burnt out and they leave and they don't get replaced. And now you're down to 3 people doing 5 people's work. So the moment there's a hiring freeze at a company, that's a big old red flag that things are going to get really, really uncomfortable. If you are running marketing, you have got to do whatever you can do to retain people, right? Beg, borrow, or borrow quietly, as much budget as you can get, as many perks as you can get, whatever you can scrounge together to keep your people, because a hiring freeze is just bad news, right? It's arguably worse than layoffs, right? Because layoffs, there's a big jolt and then people can adapt. A hiring freeze is like bleeding to death slowly. So if you are running marketing, the moment you hear hiring freeze, A, update your own LinkedIn profile, and B, go full on into retention mode. Anything you can do to retain your people. Fire clients that you don't like, right? You can get another client. Getting another team member in a hiring freeze is darn near impossible. If you are a marketing executor, if you are a doer of marketing, there's also never been a better time to start writing your own marketing cookbook, right? Catalog your knowledge, what you know how to do, the systems you work with, all the capabilities that you have, so that as opportunities arise inside your company or out, you know deeply what you can bring to the table, right? The more detailed your personal cookbook of marketing, the faster you can get up to speed in any position by adapting your existing processes and procedures to your new company. And when instability hits that company, when the hiring freeze comes or whatever, you just take your accrued knowledge and your cookbook and you move on to the next place that values what you're capable of. And finally, for those of us like me who market to marketers and serve marketers, As my friend, partner, and CEO Katie Robert has been urging, it's back to basics. Dust off the 101, freshen it up, help people with the how so you can better sell the what and the why later on. People who are too frazzled, just trying to get things done, have no interest in anything other than getting things done, getting out of survival mode, right? If someone's in a company with a hiring freeze, they are in survival mode. So we've got to do our best to provide solutions, services, products, anything that gets people out of survival mode as quickly as possible. The faster you help somebody get out of survival mode, the faster you can start selling the big picture stuff again. Right? It's really hard to do that when people just got to get stuff done. My friend Mitch Joel says it best, particularly in a recession: do not be one more thing on someone else's to-do list. He's like, that is the surest way to lose a client, is if you are adding things to people's to-do lists rather than taking them away. So that's what's on my mind this week. Let's see what's in the news. In case you missed it, did a fun episode on our live stream this week, an AI content writing bake-off. We looked at 5 different AI tools and had them all work on the same prompt and looked at the results. And we came up with a couple of tools that fit the bill for most situations, plus a tool that's for more advanced folks. So go ahead and check that out. We also had a great fireside chat with my friend Jay Bear this week, which you can find up on YouTube. There's a link in the newsletter about consumer patience, about why we have none, right? Why we have no patience. And a piece I did on crypto winter, if that's a topic is of interest to you. In terms of getting back to work, lots of new jobs this week. We have Adobe Analytics lead developer at RAS Infotech, analytics specialist at Red Door Interactive, analytics strategist at Portent, customer success engineer at Telium, digital marketing manager at 0 to 5, director of marketing at Strategic Employment Partners, marketing data and experimentation analyst at PagerDuty, performance marketing strategist at Global Expansion, senior Adobe program manager at Red Hat, senior PPC executive at Free Agent, web analyst at Digital Marketing Specialist, web analytics developer at MTV, and web implementation analyst at Harnum. So lots and lots of open positions out there. Again, that orange line keeps going up and up and up. So there are opportunities out there. Pimping this week, I have a webinar I'm doing with our friends at Modal, who have sponsored it, and with Katie. Katie and I are going to be talking about how do you sell data science to the C-suite. Not how do you sell it to the market, but how do you convince your executives, your stakeholders, hey, we should probably invest in this whole data science thing, because it's not an easy sell, particularly if your C-suite folks don't really understand what data science is or why they should care about it, but maybe they saw it in an airline magazine. In the news this week, we have understanding hashtags on TikTok, which I've actually been posting a lot on my TikTok channel recently, just random rants. How to prepare for AI writing disruption, content marketing efficiency, massive SEO and content shifts. Let's see, we have simplifying AI. The Simo Ahava goes over the new Google tag, which, by the way, so Google tag is just the G tag renamed, and it's got some cool features. It's you'll see it in GA4, but who named this thing? Google Tag, which is not the same as Google Tag Manager, is part of Google Analytics 4, but incompatible with Google Tag Manager. So Google Tag does not work with Google Tag Manager. Somebody needs to do a little more talking internally about your products and their naming. And then a new little column this week called Dealer's Choice, just some random stuff that doesn't fit in any other category. The most enduring brand definition ever by Zay Frank way back in 2006, which I love. Watch the video. It's hilarious. A new Chrome extension to export your entire history to a spreadsheet, which is pretty cool. Kind of scary. And an opinion piece on why the Russian economy will die by winter thanks to the ill-advised and really poorly going invasion of Ukraine. Let's hope that Russia can overthrow Putin, get him to take early retirement, get lost on the way to the sauna, anything, so that A, Ukraine can regain its sovereignty, and B, hundreds of thousands of Russians don't have to die because of it. If you do want to help out, The Ukraine Humanitarian Fund, as always, is accepting help. Go to u24.gov.ua to make any contribution of any size is welcome. Everything is needed there. Upcoming events in a couple weeks will be at Marketing Prof's B2B Forum, now doing 3 different things. We're doing a full-day workshop with Katie on B2B marketing analytics. We're probably going to, having our experiences with these different crowds and the whole back to basics, we're probably going to spend some time, some dig in, some real time on the 101. So that'll be fun. I'm doing a talk on private social media communities and doing a new talk on lessons for succeeding in marketing leadership. So that should be a lot of fun. I hope you can make it there. If you want to attend, go to mpb2b.marketingprofs.com. Use the completely non-exclusive discount code MPB2BFTW for 20% off an in-person ticket. That's all the news for this week. Thank you for tuning in as always. I appreciate your attention in these very crazy times. I hope you are staying safe. I hope you are enjoying Spooktober and all the things that come with it. I was at the store the other day, and so he says, "Is that your Halloween costume?" I was wearing my big heavy-duty mask. Like, "Are you dressed up for Halloween?" I said, "No, I'm dressed up for a pandemic. Where's your mask?" Anyway, stay safe. I'll talk to you soon. Take care. If you like this video, go ahead and hit that subscribe button.